I'm Jim Csek, and I'm back, but I'm in California right now. And we got lots to go on. Thank you to Ian and Josh for taking over while I was away. Lots going on here, though. A financial storm is brewing in Canada. Ottawa, where fakery is the order of the day. Alberta, leaving is serious in so many ways. Accountability in Ottawa. And we got memes galore. Memes. I'm Jim Csek with NowMedia. I'm here in California right now. The weather is absolutely stunning here in California, and the road system is crazy good as well. And Iain Burns, our managing editor in our nation's capital.
No, it's not stunning weather here, and the
It's
roads aren't
absolutely,
actually that good here either, to be honest.
absolutely spectacular down here. It is like the weather is absolutely crazy nice, and the in the areas it's kind of reminds me a little bit like the Okanagan, but definitely their road system here is crazy. Like the amount of spaghetti bowls and stuff like it's actually like I got stuck in a few traffic jams. I mean, the roads are so good here, too many people use them. It is just absolutely packed. And you know what I see a lot of here? I'd say 30% of the vehicles on the road are Teslas. Holy cow, there's a lot. Like every second or third vehicle is one. Yeah. So
And are
there
they
you go.
being self-driven? People like this with their hands on the
No,
back of their heads?
no, not just no. But they do have fast lanes and the fast track lanes and HOV lanes are three or more people and fast track lanes. If you want to go in that lane that's actually moving, it's like $15 in some places to be in the fast lane. Crazy.
Wow, that's capitalism.
There you go. If you don't mind going bumper to bumper like that movie Office, you could stay in the slow lane and do it for free. But anyway, we got lots to cover today, and then I think we're going to take a break on Monday and Tuesday. Most of our people are off on a different shoot, and most of our equipment is going with them on this shoot. So this is going to be a packed show, and then we'll be back on Wednesday, Ian and myself. But we got lots here, and we're going to start it off with a clip from Tiff Macklin in this financial storm that's brewing here in Canada.
Financial system face a new threat. U.S. trade policy has taken a dramatic protectionist shift. Tariffs and uncertainty have sharply reduced prospects for global economic growth, and financial markets have been rocked by chaotic policy announcements and reversals. A long-lasting trade war poses the greatest threat to the Canadian economy. It also increases risks to financial stability. There are two key concerns. In the near term, the unpredictability of U.S. trade policy could cause further market volatility and strains on liquidity. In an extreme case, market volatility could turn into market dysfunction. In the medium term, a prolonged global trade war would have severe economic consequences. It would reduce growth and increase unemployment. This could, in turn, have important ramifications for the financial system. With debt still at high levels, some households and businesses may be unable to keep up with payments. If loan losses occur on a large enough scale, banks could cut back on lending in response. This would exacerbate the economic downturn and put more pressure on businesses and households. Now the Canadian
There you go. Not good. Um, the tightening of credit is definitely what will choke this economy off, choke off jobs, people not investing. People are scared to make large purchases, on and on and on and on and on. And and a lot of mortgages are renewing at higher rates. You know, like people that got really good rates at early on before like um, the increase in rates, the 19-fold increase, and now a lot of them are coming due, and a lot of people are already on the wire of making their monthly obligations. So this could be really bad for, even if rates go down, they're not down as to where these people had their rates. Some people had rates as low as lower than 1% on their mortgages, and they're not getting anywhere near that right now. So
That's another thing that the Americans get better than we do because they get those 30-year terms, don't they? So if you, the people that locked in during COVID, they locked in like basically 0% for 30 years. Like that's just remarkable, isn't it? But we're not that lucky here in Canada. I think it's something interesting here that that he said though, Tiff, is that he actually pointed to the more like broader structural problems beyond just Orange Man bad. He did start saying that, you know, we've failed to look at other markets, and particularly something that I think is possibly even more important than that, which is internal trade and internal transport and connectivity. That's, you know, that's always been Canada's like biggest sort of flaw in many ways. That's why all the provinces trade south rather than east or west, because transport is so hard and it's so cumbersome, and not really all that much attention has been put on that over the years. And Tiff pointed that out there, Mr. Macklem, I should say. So, I mean, but Carney and also Pierre Poilievre, they've said this, but it's the only issue is it's a little bit late, isn't it, really, this stage of the drama.
Yeah, a lot of the solutions are, you know, a ways away. Like it takes years to build a pipeline, years to build these different things. And this is 10 years of Liberal government and putting us in a situation that is you know, untenable right now. And we really have been at a weak spot. And then you have an American president that is taking advantage of that weak spot too. And that has really put Canada in a tough spot. But it is the policies of the last 10 years that put us here. And it doesn't look like to me that this newly elected government is going to change the majority of their core policies. They're still on with the carbon tax. They're still on this Bill 69 of no pipelines. And I mean, Canada's greatest asset, we've said this a million times on this show, Canada's greatest assets is resources. And we still don't have, you know, word from the Carney Liberals that resources, the beast will be unleashed. We don't have that.
Yeah, and he's been asked, hasn't he? The CEOs have asked him. Even Doug Ford asked him.
Right.
In Josh and I were talking about that yesterday. He's like talking about Alberta, and he's saying, "Give him some love." So even Dougie, if the you know, that man who's always got his finger to the wind, hasn't he, Doug? If he's saying that, then yeah, Carney has to go along with it. I think if he has any interest in governing with consent and with any kind of national popularity, he has to do that.
You know, all the virtue signaling in the world, all the fancy videos they create, all that kind of stuff really doesn't change the financial situation until they say they're going to build a pipeline, until they say they're going to support Alberta. Those are the things that matter. And yet, why don't they say them? That's the question. Why don't they say them? Canadians,
it's the emissions cap as well. That's like absolutely brutal, isn't it, for Alberta? They're sick to the stomach about that. But it's even beyond pipelines, and it's beyond that. I mean, as Tiff Macklem was saying here, it's about things like railway lines and roads, even highways. I know you often talk about what a state the Trans-Canada Highway is in parts, where it's just so small time, isn't it? It's like not a serious road. But it's like the road in Canada that's supposed to connect this country together.
One of the richest resource nations in the world being run like an impoverished nation. I come down here to California, and throughout the United States, they got interstates everywhere, 4-lane highways, 5, 6-lane highways, and just everywhere they move stuff. They transport stuff because they have a great big nation as well. Canada has the second largest nation in the world. And we have a Trans-Canada Highway that is not even 4-lane all the way across Canada. How many Canadians continue to die on that treacherous road by not 4-laning it? And all we get is a Liberal minister like Stephen Guilbeault said that they will not even spend any more money on roads. He's responsible for that. And they don't want to spend money on roads. And it shows. It shows in the state of our highways and the way that we transport goods across Canada. Our goods are taxed when they had that carbon tax on there, adding to that everything. Because the only way to get goods across Canada is with transport trucks or trains, and all of them burn diesel.
I mean, it's unfortunately some countries like China, for example, and the US are blessed with these like really long navigable rivers, so they can transport stuff on rivers like the Yangtze or the Mississippi. But we're not really in that position. I mean, we got the St. Lawrence, obviously, which is not coincidentally where most of the population of Canada lives, because it's so much better to be able to use a river than go over land. So we're kind of like we're burdened with this fact, and that's before you even look at things like mountains, like the Rockies, and then you got Western Ontario, where it's just like nothing. I don't know if you've ever been there. I assume you have. There's just nothing there. It's just like completely. It's just Canadian Shield, really. There's like nothing there. So you just got to like slog through that, and it all has to be done with trucks. Yeah. So that's why we've gone south over the years, because it's just easier, isn't it? It's cheaper and it's easier, and that's where money flows. It goes down the easiest route. So yeah, to an extent now, it's like we've had a sniff of the salt, haven't we? And we have to suddenly like wake up, and we have to completely rearrange our economy, all because of the Orange Man.
Canadians continue to struggle with debt. About 2/3 of us are continuing to struggle with debt. This is the Holly Dome Blacklock story. More mortgage holders are struggling. We talked about this to pay household expenses, said a federal report. The Financial Consumer Agency noted more people are relying on credit card debt at 19 and 20%. I mean, that is a hole to dig like you would not believe. More than 1/3 of Canadians, 35% hold a mortgage, and 2/3 of mortgage holders are now struggling to meet their financial commitments. That's what I'm saying. Like when these rates renew, and they're 3 to 4 times higher than what they took them out at, it's going to be really, really bad unless they get rates down and boost this economy. The unemployment rate's rising at the same time debt is rising. Think about that. Unemployment rate, these two factors, and you can virtue signal all day and make up stuff about being the strongest nation in the G7 or whatever. Unemployment rate rising, debt rising, and inability to pay. You tell me where the good news in that is.
And GDP per capita declining, or in a best case scenario, stagnating. And then there's, I mean, God, the list is so long, but the demographics are absolute garbage in this country, which is so important. We don't have enough young people. We've got an abundance of old people. That's an economic catastrophe. Besides the moral questions or the philosophical questions, just in economic terms, that's an absolute disaster. And it's already unfolding. And we've seen how deadly this can be in Europe and East Asia. Then we have other problems like a pretty huge deficit and a massive national debt, which we are growing to fund that deficit. And then the sort of absolute coup de grace is that we don't really have any growth whatsoever, not even GDP growth. Because if you look at the population, all the people that we've added to Canada, it's the paltry GDP growth that we've seen over the last few years doesn't come close to matching even the new people we've added. So it's like every single one of the economic alarms is going off, basically, as far as I'm concerned. The only positive is that in most places in the world it's worse. I think that's about it. That's the only note of optimism that we can enjoy.
The latest data following a warning by Canada's chief bank inspector. This is the superintendent of financial institutions, Peter Routledge. He's very concerned about mortgage rate shock awaiting homeowners. Yeah, like it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, and and the way they structure it right now, this talk about like the carbon tax putting on all industry. What industry is going to invest in Canada when they can take their money south and do it with less regulation, less taxation, and less hurdles? You
And
tell
have
me.
a bigger market to sell to as
Bigger
well.
market. And just for an example, I'm here in California right now. California is the 4th largest economy in the world, like at $4.3 trillion in GDP. Canada's at 2.4 trillion. Like if you look at that, the state of California alone dwarfs Canada, right?
Same population as well, which is
Same population, and it dwarfs
important.
And the road system down here, like I said, the road system down here is absolutely amazing. They do have some inflationary pressures for sure. Gasoline is very high down here, but gasoline in California is like $5.30 a gallon. But in other parts of the United States right now, gasoline is down to like under $1.98 and stuff like that. Whereas in Canada, we still have high prices for energy. And all of this feeds into this next story that we're about to talk about here. The unemployment rate continues to rise in Canada. It continues to rise in Canada. And that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Increasing debt, increasing unemployment, fleeing capital. Like and then you watch the virtue signaling and the videos being put out by the Liberal Party, how this is going to grow to the strongest nation. Why don't we be honest with Canadians? Why don't we be honest and maybe adopt some of the policies that Pierre Poilievre was going to run? All this trickery that was done, like, our greatest asset is our natural resources, and they will not embrace it.
Well, yeah, for ideological reasons, it seems. But also with Carney, he tries to kind of rationalize it, doesn't he? He tries to give an actual sort of adult explanation for why he wants to dodge fossil fuels, and it's to do with trade barriers that the Europeans might put in place and things like that, and how important it is to get ahead of the curve and where international capital is going in terms of investment. He says it's all going to renewables. It's a little bit misleading to say that, but yeah, he's tried to put that kind of rational glaze on it. But the reality is, as you said, it is the primary export for Canada. It's how our bread is buttered, whether we like that or not. It's true. I mean, a lot of people, I have a lot of time for people that say, we can't just be an extraction economy. Like, we have to actually be a more sophisticated economy than that, because you don't just want to be an extraction economy. That's a disaster. But at the same time, when you're in a pickle, as we are now, and we've got something that the world wants, let's get out of that pickle, give the world what they want, and then we can worry about things like value added and, tech and all the rest of those really important industries that maybe we're not so good at. But yeah, when you're in trouble, that's what you do. You must do it. You can't say no to, a free lunch, can you? Especially when you're very hungry, like we are.
The unemployment rate in Canada has jumped from 6.7 to banging on the door of 7 at 6.9, and I believe it'll go higher from there. And it's especially bad in the younger demographics. It's especially bad in the younger demographics. And even in Kelowna, it went from 5.8 to 6.9. I know more and more companies are talking about laying off. More and more companies are talking about shutting down. I hear it all the time. A lot of people reach out to me and say, like, it is so bad out there, so bad out there. And when money tightens up, it's the thing. It's kind of like a downward spiral when money tightens up, and the bank is choking off money. Toronto, I believe, has an unemployment rate of 10%. So, like, and then they have a housing crash going on as well in Toronto. They have a housing crash going on. They've overbuilt in these small shoe boxes that they thought that all the immigrants would buy. These 250 square feet to 500 square foot condos. They have a huge surplus of these things. Like, again, these are not homes. Like, nobody wants to buy these, and plus they can't afford them. So it's just ridiculous. It was just taking advantage of people, and the immigration policies, again, set by the Liberals, has caused a crisis in our healthcare, caused a crisis in our housing, and even they admit that. And yet, what are we doing about it? A personal story. I know somebody just recently trying to get a biopsy for cancer, and told that the wait is a while, and of course that person freaking out. A friend of mine went to Mexico, and she texted a doctor in Mexico, and she had an answer in hours, right? And said, "Yeah, come down," and I can't remember the amount is ludicrously cheap for the biopsy. I think it's $200 US, and then it's I can't even remember, $2,000. Yeah, it's just. I'm here for a conference, and I was at a conference on health and longevity, and I talked to a doctor there from Florida, an internal medicine doctor, and I told him about some of the problems here in Canada with, we did that story of that young lady that was told that it would be over a year to wait for her to get her scan for her brain tumor. And he said his advice was she has to leave Canada. Because that's
there are more options now. You can go somewhere like Turkey as well.
Yeah, he said that's basically a death sentence for her, so she has to leave. Like, there's no choice for her.
Yeah, and that's pure dysfunction, isn't it? That's indicative of the level of dysfunction that Canada's found itself in now. That you have people who are basically, like you say, like they've almost got a death sentence, and they're going to go somewhere else. But now we actually have those options. Like, there's a lot of these countries that I guess you would call kind of middle income countries, maybe a
Yeah.
bit, sometimes maybe a little bit closer towards developed, but places like Turkey, for sure, the Europeans, like I know a lot of people from Britain who go to Turkey, and some Americans do it as well, actually. And you get like a full body scan and all the rest of it, and they do like a full health checkup, and it's not really very much money. And it's kind of like, why are you going to sit around in a dysfunctional health system like the one that we have in Canada and just wait for misery, wait for death, when you could just go somewhere like Mexico or even Thailand and other places like that. You can just go overseas now. But then I guess that's just going to lead to more resentment from the taxpayer, because the vast majority of our taxes is going to that kind of thing, isn't it? Like social care and healthcare. And then we don't even get anything for it. So, but I mean, on this unemployment data, just to go back to that briefly, the Ontario one is like, that to me is like the big flashing siren. Nearly 8% in Ontario. It's kind of, you look over at Newfoundland that traditionally has the highest, and it does again this time, but it's not that far. Not that big a difference between Ontario and Newfoundland. I mean, there's something really dodgy going on in Ontario. And Statistics Canada explains that lots of manufacturing jobs were lost. So that's because of the tariffs. But then it says as well, the reality of this situation is it would actually be a lot worse. The employment data would be a lot worse were it not for the election, because
Yeah.
loads of people get hired. Loads of people. What do they say? 37,000. Yeah, 37,000 jobs in public admin, and StatCan says a lot of that was temporary workers who were hired to organize the election. So obviously they're gone now. That's a very short job. So that's quite worrying. And then you mentioned Kelowna. Kelowna's unemployment rate is usually pretty healthy, isn't it, compared to the rest of Canada and the rest of BC, but 6.9%, and that's up from 5.8% in March. So I can't do it in my head, but that's something like 15 or more percent increase, isn't it? That's a pretty dramatic increase in the space of a month.
Yeah, and let me just tell you, the Great Recession in 2009 in the United States, unemployment hit 10%. And if we get to those numbers, like Toronto's at 10%, those are not good numbers for an economy, because I mean the numbers are actually likely higher than that, the real numbers. And it's
They're
just
newfie numbers.
Yeah, they're newfie numbers. There you go. And then another story from Holly Dolans at Blacklocks warns of job seekers' fakery. So the federal job seekers who claim to be Indigenous are not. We've even seen some MPs that have done that, have we not? So there you go. So they don't have no requirement. So you can just go in there and say you have Indigenous heritage, and that's all you need to do. So there's a bunch of people that are actually faking it. And federal departments and agency have set a 5% set aside on a total of $34 billion in annual contract for companies majority owned by First Nations, Inuit, or Métis. So there you go. No verification process. You cannot ask for proof for being Indigenous. Anybody can walk in the door and say, I'm Inuit, Métis, or First Nations without any verification.
But isn't that the problem? The problem isn't that they don't check, in my opinion. The problem is not that they don't bring in a genealogist or do a DNA test. The problem, for my money, is that there are privileges set aside for certain people based on their ethnicity. I mean, are we in the Ottoman Empire or something? What? Why are we doing that? Why on earth are we doing that in a 21st century civilized country? It just, obviously people are going to exploit that because it's clearly unjust and strange, not the sort of thing that should happen in a liberal society.
Well, the MPs themselves set the example. The MPs themselves have been setting the example. And you have to think about it.
And they write the law.
We have to think about it, though. As things get worse, you're going to do whatever it takes to feed your family.
Yeah, get yourself, buy yourself access to some sort of band somewhere.
And to all the people that say that we're anti-liberal, no, they're the ones in power. Our job is to hold power accountable. Our job is to hold power accountable. Pierre Poilievre and his party really have no power making laws for the past 10 years. Blaming a party that has no, it's like one might as well blame the Bloc for everything going on in Canada. It's the Liberals and the NDP own this. And you can't even blame the NDP anymore because they self-imploded on themselves. And
I think when we're talking about things like like the really big macro questions, and when we're talking about things like the Trans-Canada Highway, for example, we can go back a bit further, and that would bring in some conservative governments, wouldn't it? And if you want to make even broader sort of claims about like the relationship with the US and all the rest of it, yeah, that's going to bring in the conservatives. But really, when we're talking about a lot of this stuff, not so much this. Well, actually, yeah, this Indigenous thing, I guess the Liberals have really hammered this home. But when we're talking about things like unemployment and GDP per capita growth and all the rest of it, like those, like the basic sort of economic indicators, yeah, that's just there's nobody but the Liberals, just and the NDP to blame for that because they've been in power for 10 years. And what I'm very curious about is when Mark Carney gets going and he he's in there a couple of years or whatever. Are they still going to talk about Stephen Harper, do you think? Like when it was 12 years ago? Because it amazed me that Justin Trudeau still had so much interest in Stephen Harper, didn't he? He's so much appetite to have a go at Harper.
And then the Mark Carney's Liberals better take this serious. They better take this serious. Doug Ford's been saying it too. They better take Alberta and Saskatchewan serious because they are the province that rings the cash register for Canada. And here's a column by Don Braid, former UCP Minister Peter Guthrie, saying separatism campaign could severely damage the economy, and that is a no-brainer. Even the talk of Alberta separating can be very, very harmful to the Canadian dollar, harmful to the Canadian economy, and just overall those seeds of discontent. And they need to take it seriously. And the only way to take Alberta serious is to say you're going to repeal Bill 69 and Bill C-48 and talk about other markets for Canadian energy. But why haven't they done it already? If they're really looking at the numbers, why haven't they said it already? Why have they not prioritized Alberta and Saskatchewan? Why have they not prioritized canola in Saskatchewan?
Mm-hmm.
You
Indeed.
just answer the question, like why? Like autos seems to be the biggest priorities, and you and I have talked about this so many times. The auto market is likely leaving unless they reduce or repeal that EV mandate. They've not talked about that, have they? In fact, in BC, they've doubled down on it and say, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know.
Well, the reason, as you do know the reason, obviously, and I'll be the one that steps in and says it. It's because there are, how many seats in Quebec now? I can't remember. It's like 50 something, isn't it? Or whatever. And in Alberta and Saskatchewan combined, there aren't many seats, really, not overall. And they all go for the Conservatives, basically every single one of them every time. So if you're the Liberal government and somebody in Alberta is saying, do this, or Saskatchewan as well, do this, and with a list of things to do, and then Quebec says, that will upset me. If you're a very cynical, unprincipled kind of chap that really likes to be in power, and that's about all you like, you're going to give the Quebec people what they want, aren't you? And that's pretty much what's happened.
Yeah, it's not good. Really, really. So they need to take it serious. They absolutely need to take it serious. We got another thing on oil prices. Oil prices are down, and that, like I said, in the United States, gasoline prices are down under $2 in some states, and that's going to drive down inflationary costs on both sides of the border. But oil prices are down about $60 a barrel this week on back of fear of a slowdown in the global economy. What does that mean for Canada's oil producers? Not that great, but with a break-even price of around $50 a barrel, the oil sands are in better position than U.S. shale wells that have a break-even around $65 a barrel, right? So Canada, I mean, energy is our future. Energy is our solution. Yet we don't talk about energy. Like it's absent in the conversations that are being made. They go there and they're worried about autos. That's what, like when you listen to, autos, aluminum and steel. Why aren't we talking about energy? Why are we not talking about energy?
Well, yeah, same reason. Votes. Ontario has 78 or whatever it is seats. Got to get those seats. If you want to have power, you've got to appease people that can give you power. And it is so true what you said, like the way Carney and the Liberals, they're coming out almost like in tears. They're like in mourning, aren't they? When the news came out about that plant that had to suspend work in Windsor. They were like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, and my heart, my thoughts are with all of you." That's just purely cynical. That's just because they want votes. They want support because that's the bedrock of their power. That's the basis of their power. But when there are people, when there are farmers panicking in Saskatchewan, when there are oil producers, gas producers, whatever, losing their livelihoods in Alberta, where are the tweets? Where's the veil? Where's the period of mourning for those people? It doesn't exist, and the reason is power. It's all power. It's just like we're living in Machiavelli's dreams here.
Do you think that GM's Mary Barra or Jim Farley of Ford will even take their calls? Because I mean, I've heard them talk. Like there's excess capacity in the United States with no EV mandate. Where do you think that excess capacity is going to land? Lower taxes, lower regulation, and no EV mandate. Think about it. Just use common sense for a couple of seconds in your brain and just think about it. You know, when Honda
It's
threatened
not just that, though, is it? It's not just the pull, or it's not just the carrot. It's also the stick, because Donald Trump is a gigantic hooligan who is trying to bully companies into coming to the US. So it's like, in that scenario, do you leave Canada and not really get much of a beating, or do you leave the US, or like, do something that the president doesn't want in the US? In which case you're going to be beaten really, brutally. I think it's kind of, in that sense, it's a no-brainer. And it's the thing with money, isn't it? It's the thing with capital. It always goes to the place where it's easiest. And that would obviously, for the auto industry, that's obviously the US, isn't it? Now there's no question about that.
You would think that somebody, maybe they could hire us, somebody in the Liberal government would sit down in a room and say, how do we have a healthy auto sector in Canada? Like, what are the requirements for a healthy auto sector in Canada? I don't think they know the answer. I don't think they know the answer. Because I think
But I
we
don't
could
think
help.
they care. Look, this is the point. I don't think they care. They just know that people that can vote want the auto industry in Canada to continue. They want it to exist, and they want those jobs. And that's all they need. That's the only information that the Liberal Party needs. And that's the only information that the Conservative Party needs as well, because it's not like the Tories were not playing this game as well. Of course they were. The Tories were playing exactly this game, alongside lots of other sort of cynical games that they decided to play in this election. It's just, it all boils down to that. And it's so tragic, because Saskatchewan, for its population, is the most important province in Canada, I think. I mean, if you like per head, but it's so unfortunate for Saskatchewan because there aren't very many people there. So they're just like forgotten in the electoral system, and nobody cares, even though they have the potash, the canola, the uranium and all that. Like, they've got so much there. They've got actually quite a lot of oil as well, haven't they, in Saskatchewan? But
Yeah.
because they have so few votes to give, the politicians just don't really care.
I've even heard it from some lefty liberals saying that the people that live in Alberta and Saskatchewan have lower IQs, and therefore they don't even deserve the vote. So there you go.
I would be inclined to say that they actually have higher IQs. I'd be interested to see that. I'd like to see the data on that one.
Here we go. Holly Doan, Black Lots again. And she's talking about, she's getting a lot of heat for this because they put out a story there saying nobody gets fired. That they knew that there are 577,000 acres of dead pine at risk. And our environment minister, Stephen Guilbeault, did nothing about it. Nothing. And they're the ones responsible for Parks Canada. They're the ones responsible. Nobody gets fired.
And we're hearing that, aren't we? We're hearing all about that responsibility in the context of Alberta separation. Because, so the argument goes, Jasper and Banff would not, wouldn't be the possession of an independent Alberta. But it's ironic, isn't it, given that the evidence is that the federal government hasn't exactly done a good job in its administration of at least Jasper.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then this was a National Post, piece put up by the Post saying Prime Minister Mark Carney cannot be trusted with the charter protected right to freedom of expression. And we're hearing a lot more of this and talking about, what they're going to do with the internet and stuff like that. So again, we have seen no discussion on Bill C-18, which Pierre Poilievre was going to repeal immediately. And here it is All we're talking about with the Liberals is how we can increase censorship on the internet.
Well, it's the Liberal. I would be more inclined to say it's the Liberal Party than Mark Carney. I haven't really seen anything from Mark Carney in that regard. He did, he's come out with the usual sort of slop about the internet's not a safe place and revenge porn and some other stuff like that. That's just like, that's just like throwing hot dogs at the plebs, isn't it? That's not serious political discussion. It's just the sort of thing that somebody like Katie Telford would tell you to say, just to like check a box. But I haven't really seen anything from Carney to suggest that he's like ideologically excited by the idea of censoring the internet. Whereas I think Trudeau, I did get that impression, and also Chrystia Freeland a little bit. But all I would say here to kind of, if it's a note of optimism, which I suppose it is, this I don't think is a priority for Mark Carney, and I also don't think, if Mark Carney is pragmatic, as he says he is, then I don't think he's going to do this because it would really alienate lots of people in the country, and it would also really upset the Conservative Party, particularly Pierre Poilievre, who often talks about the importance of freedom and including freedom of speech. So I don't think Carney is going to want to antagonize and alienate the Conservative Party at this point, when he started off by saying we all have to work together. This is a national emergency. We have to, we need a sort of national parliament, a national government. If he did this, that would just smash all that to pieces straight away, and there'd be no union, there'd be no friendship between the parties. So my only hope is that Carney just says, I haven't got time for this, and this is not the time anyway.
So this is what's puzzled many people, is how did this biggest, even Trump called it the biggest political turnaround in history. Even Trump said it's probably bigger than his turnaround, when you had a party that was near like no status to like almost a majority government. And Abacus took a look at that data, and it goes back to my saying, is where fear is where cowards go to die. And they ran a campaign of fear, and it literally worked on Canadians again, just like they did during COVID. They did the same fear campaign. And then look at this now that they've won the election, and look at the video that was put out by Mark Carney yesterday after the meeting. Completely different story from this is the end of the world with the Americans, and like there'll be tanks rolling in the street, to like we need to work together and find a path, and so much for their, you know what I mean? Again, they say what they need to say, it seems like. not the reality of the situation, but fear is how they won this campaign.
Totally. If we could, I don't know, Rommel, if you can go up to the previous slide briefly, the one that was, yeah, this is fascinating to me. I think this is astonishing to me. Look, if this election was just about the economy, look how big that lead is for the Tories. And then also cost of living. And then you look at Trump, 76% of Liberal voters said that they thought Trump was the most important issue, versus 13% of the Conservatives. I just think that's it in a nutshell. But that's also, what does that tell you about Canadian society? That it's split basically down the middle. You've got these people who, for whatever reason, their priority is not the economy. It's not cost of living. That's not something that they think about every day. But Donald Trump is. And then you got this other half who, yeah, they probably don't like Donald Trump and what he's been saying, but they're living hand to mouth in many cases, and they are terrified about the economy. And then we have the two parties. I mean, in that, when you look at that, obviously this is just a poll, this is a survey or whatever, but I would say it's probably quite accurate, and it seems to chime with what I've seen in reality as well. But if you look at that in the context of what Mark Carney said about trying to reach across the aisle, I feel like that's like a national emergency that he does that now, because the Conservatives and the people that voted for the Conservatives represent something completely different. And that half of the country, let's call them half, they really need help. They need to be given something so that they can maintain faith in Canada, I think, and in democracy, because it's so dramatic and it's so urgent. When I look at that split, like usually when one party wins an election, the other one loses, it's usually like small stuff, isn't it? Like little adjustments to tax rates and things like that, and a few little issues like that. But this is such a wide gulf. I feel like for the sake of democracy, like we have to think of bringing people together here and trying to figure a way out of this
And
mess.
the first thing to do is be honest, because the economy seems to have taken a back seat here. And again, it's always about the economy. When a government, that's what the government controls, is the economy. That's what they can stick their hand in with regulation. That's what, and one of the big things that Pierre Poilievre had in his platform, which I said was rocket fuel, and I believe it is rocket fuel, is the reinvestment of the capital gains tax. All the Liberals and NDP know how to do is add taxes, add taxes, add taxes, and it scares away investment capital. Without investment capital, you get the greatest resources in the world, and if nobody wants to invest to pull them from the ground and for the benefit of Canada, then you have nothing but a pause. And then so somebody picks up those assets cheap, like a Brookfield, and at a later date capitalizes on them, and at the detriment of Canadians. Again, look to Norway. We say this a million times, and I'm sure our regular listeners are used to this. The Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund is stacked with cash, and Canada looks like it's heading towards a gloomy, gloomy, gloomy storm of financial reckoning.
And self-inflicted, really.
Self-inflicted. Yeah.
Just like Norway's prosperity is also self-inflicted. That was policy. That's a policy decision. Because you can look at Norway and compare it to Britain. Famously, this has been done loads of times. The Norwegians and the British have the same, they share the same resources. It's in the North Sea. It's the same oil and gas. But the British are just so stupid, just so hopelessly incompetent and stupid that they just wasted what they did extract, and now they work against extraction. And the Norwegians are just, talking about IQ. I think they've proved themselves to have a rather high IQ nationally anyway, because they just figured it out and they made the right decisions in policy terms, and now they're rich. It's as simple as that. Not only are they rich, but routinely Norway comes out as like the happiest country in the world, or like top 5 happiest countries in the world. So it's beyond just money. It's also fulfillment, apparently, and happiness and all the rest of that good stuff.
We're going to get to some local content here, and then world content, and then we've got a ton of market stuff, and we've got some of the coolest memes ever. And so stick around. And I do want to say, though, that we've changed the format a little bit here so that Iain is now visible, which is great, which started a couple of days ago with Josh. And we have this format where Iain and I are both visible. And we got the slides to the left there. I hope everybody likes that. If you got any feedback for that, we'd appreciate that as well. But locally, after disastrous 2024 cherry, apple, wine, grape crops, all looking good. That's a typical for farmers. You get some bad years and some good years. And right now, it looks like it's going to be a bumper year for cherry growers. It looks really nice out in the orchards. Lots of cherries growing on trees. There you go.
Can't ask for more, really, can you? That's literally the Lord's bounty is upon us.
Well, I just drove by a fruit stand here in the United States of America here when we were out, and we were driving around in the area. We drove by Cupertino, which is where Apple is. We drove by Meta headquarters. We're going to actually go out there today, and we're staying in Fremont, which is the home of the Tesla factory. And we're going to actually go to the Tesla factory today too, and we're going to try and see some of these things. But it is a tech mega hub here in California. Like absolutely, this area here is where the Steve Jobs characters were on the roads. Cupertino is the headquarters for Apple and all that kind of stuff. And the point of that is, I drove by a fruit stand and they had just massive cherries. The problem is I didn't have any American dollars, and they didn't take credit cards, so no cherries for me at that fruit stand.
And would they not take Canadian dollars? Maybe try your luck.
No, the English wasn't very good either. Just kind of stared at us blankly. So like, there you go. But yeah, the fruit down here, like the farms down here, just crazy, like huge, like as far as the eye can see. Another local
they're
story.
massive, aren't they?
Judge orders bloggers arrest. This is from Holly Owns the Blackhawks, actually, but it's a Kelowna story. In the age of conspiracy theories and how quickly information can be disseminated on the internet, false information has consequences, wrote Justice John Gibb Carsley of the BC Supreme Court. He ordered the arrest of a blogger for ignoring a 2024 injunction to delete his post targeting business. And we've done a little bit on this story, and you've actually had some communication with the guy that's being accused of this as well.
Yeah, he's put me on his website, and I just had a look, and I'm very sorry to report, Jim, but he's also put you on his
Oh, I made it.
website.
Well,
He's,
there you
he's got a
go.
picture of you, and you're described as well dressed. So it could be worse.
He called you. He sent me an email and called you. I can't remember. It wasn't very. Called you a child or something like that. I don't know.
He called me a word that begins with R and is considered
Yeah,
rather offensive to people. Um,
he called you a
well,
couple of names.
let's leave it at that.
There you go.
Yeah, he called me the R word.
I
But I don't know.
believe.
I mean, the guy is clearly he's clearly gone through something, isn't he? And this is the bigger issue here is how easy it is to just like ignore a judge and just like nothing really happens. Like he was told to pay something like $200,000, $190,000 or something like that a few years ago. Obviously, just didn't. Got a very short jail sentence. But it's just kind of like you can just sort of. I hate to say this, I probably shouldn't say this, but it feels like you can almost just do anything, you know? The justice system is so ineffective that you can just like
Yeah,
do anything. So they've issued an arrest warrant for him. Is he going to be arrested? He's sending me emails this
yeah. So,
morning. So
so
I mean, he obviously doesn't care, does he?
he goes under the name of Ace Ventura when he sends us his stuff, and then he's attacking the Sandra fruit packers in here in Kelowna, here, right? So
But it's just wild accusations, like obviously defamatory. You can't just say things like that about people, obviously, if you don't have any evidence. That's not an infringement on freedom of speech or anything like that. It's an obvious protection that exists to, sometimes to preserve people's livelihoods or even their lives. Like you need to be protected from obviously false, malicious claims. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this guy strikes me as a classic sort of how would I phrase it? We would call him a schizo around my neck of the woods. But it's clearly somebody that, these people have been on the internet since the beginning of the internet. I'm very, very familiar with these sort of people, but they're mentally unstable in most cases, and they need to be helped, I think. But
yeah,
tragically, not a lot of that going around these days, is there?
I get called lots of names and lots of innuendos get posted about me as well because of our show here. So there you go. We're famous in our own right. There you go. Let's on the world news. India and Pakistan tensions at the highest point since 1999, says an expert in BC.
I
Words I
mean,
do
God, we can laugh, but
expert,
it's
right?
tragic, isn't it?
There you go.
This is considered this conflict, India Pakistan. I mean, it's considered by experts, to use that word again, but it's also anybody with common sense. This is considered the most dangerous potential sort of like nuclear conflict, and it really is scary actually if you think about it. It's more
I
likely than like China US or any of these other, or China Russia, any of these other like matchups that people get scared about. This is the one you should be scared about. If you're scared about nuclear war, it should be this one.
There was a kind of a meme I was going to put up there. It was that they opened the gate between Pakistan and India where they're kind of dressed in ceremonial dress and they kind of had a dance off. And I thought they would trivialize the situation too much because, but the tensions between these two countries has always been very, very high, and it's just escalating. But you're absolutely right. They are both nuclear powers, and both have been kind of friends of the United States at different times too, right? Because don't forget, Pakistan was kind of involved in that Osama bin Laden stuff too, as well, and they allowed the Americans to use airspace, I think, for a fee, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, they were charging a huge, I can't remember what it was, but it was an enormous sum of money for, it wasn't just to use airspace, it was also they used what's the port now? Karachi. No, I can see it. I can see it on my little map up there. They use Karachi as like their way in from the sea to get up to Afghanistan, and they used it. They used Pakistan for all sorts of things, but obviously Pakistan charged a huge sum of money for that, and also simultaneously helped the Taliban. And they were found on numerous occasions to have done that. So they were kind of playing both sides. Pakistan is such a weird country. It's very, very hard to understand Pakistan. I think it's kind of run by the military, and they have the ISI, Inter-Services Intelligence. That's like their kind of all-powerful spy agency. They just have their fingers in absolutely every pie, pretty much, and they're doing all sorts all over the world. They're very, very strange, Pakistan. But what you said earlier about the friendship with the US, I think now it started to diverge quite dramatically in that the US is all in on India. Well, the West is all in on India, and China is all in on Pakistan, and they have they have like massive ambitions in Pakistan to build a kind of it's like they're going to build a port of their own basically, and like a route through Pakistan, because obviously they share a border, China and Pakistan. So China's gone on all in on Pakistan, and the West on India. So it's kind of there's a bit of a kind of proxy conflict there, I guess. But I don't know. It's a bit scary because a lot of people might think, oh well, let them, some very unpleasant people, let's say, very callous people might say, well, let them nuke each other. Like, what do I care? But the reality is they've done studies on this, and even what they call a regional nuclear war, like a small scale nuclear war, would have massive effects for us even, because it would affect the atmosphere, and there'd be like chance that we could have like famine and stuff around the world if that happened. So we should all be bothered about that.
And then also skirmishes on the India Chinese border too. I mean, that is contentious borders for sure.
Yeah, it's all there in the Himalayas because it's really hard to come up with an idea for a border when it's in mountains, especially the world's highest mountain range like that. It's really difficult to because usually borders are determined by something like a river or whatever. It's usually that simple, or the sea. But when it's the mountains, it's kind of tricky. So yeah, you've got Pakistan, China, and India all claim parts of Kashmir, and that's what this fight is about, as it usually is. It's usually about Kashmir.
Talking about borders, more than half of Canadians say Alberta's separation should be taken seriously. They should have thought of that during the election when it was a serious issue, and it said that that you would have a unity crisis if the Liberals were reelected. And here we are, smack dab, when Trump took over the whole thing, and everybody was all on fear, and they ignored everything else. And now these everything else's are starting to bubble up to the top. And here we got a clip here from Fox News talking about it as well, talking about Canada and Alberta and the possibilities of a separation. And this is what I believe Trump was playing into the whole time.
People here in
That's why he drove that fear.
People here in the States don't really know about. There is a move by a couple of provinces, primarily Alberta in the West, which has a lot of oil. It's a very rich province. Right. The premier has suggested that they're not getting anything from the federal government. They're giving billions. At one point, the premier is a woman. She said, Premier Smith said that they've given $1 trillion worth of mineral wealth to Ottawa, to the central government, and have received practically nothing in return. 33% of Albertans want to secede from Canada. Yep. And remember that Quebec tried to do that a couple of decades ago. It actually went to the Canadian Supreme Court in 1998, and they outlined a process by which you can secede. It's the only Commonwealth nation that allows a nonviolent process for secession. So I think Donald Trump and this 51st state thing is playing into that, what's going on in Canada. It seems totally out of the ballpark. Maybe you could chip off a piece at a time
and do business with the very oil-rich section of Canada.
Exactly.
And I think that, he basically is saying, look, I've seen, people who appeared in Calcitran, and I've done deals with them in the past. So he's clearly still chipping away at that. This is Scott Bessent talking about when we're going to hear these trade deals, because the president sort of...
There you go.
Sad to hear that, isn't it? Although that guy is wrong. He was very, very confident there, wasn't he? But wrong when he said that's the only country that allows or has a system in place for secession. Because
typically get lots of stuff wrong.
The Scottish nearly did it, obviously, in 2014, and that is a Commonwealth country, believe it or not.
There you go. But there is many people that thought the reason that Trump was pushing for Carney, and I've got this from a lot of people on my LinkedIn that sent it to me too, that they were actually going to vote. They were conservative. They were actually going to vote Liberal because they wanted the Liberals to win so that Alberta would get so angry and leave. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but it's a real concern right now. It's and Quebec is making the same amount of noise with Blanchette saying, that they want to be first. So Canada is facing a unity crisis on more than one front: Alberta, Saskatchewan, Quebec. And this is after 10 years of liberal mismanagement. And then they gave the reins back. And then you wonder why there's frustration in Canada. You wonder why there's frustration where people can't make their mortgage payments, can't put food on the table. And then again, living in the richest nation in the world, should be the richest nation in the world, and they can't put food on the table. And you wonder why there's frustration.
But if the Tories had won, would we now be talking about Quebec separation? It seems like it's either one or the other, and because they pull in different directions, don't they?
We would at least be talking about a freedom of the press with Bill C-18 repealed, because if you don't have a strong democracy, if you don't have freedom of the press, and we do not have that in Canada, we have a compromised press, and that is a fact. So I don't know, like anybody would like to debate anybody that would like to debate that.
Get Justin on.
Get Justin on. There you go. China panics ahead of trade talks, shuts down its economic data. China doesn't want to share, doesn't want to be have any of that data show up as they're heading into talks right now. So Trump hinted at a deal as well, and looks like he signed his first deal there the other day. And I think we talked about that. I think we'll talk about it later too with your friend Keir Starmer.
I would just say on this Chinese data, I mean, I don't know, it probably doesn't even have to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway. What they do issue isn't really accurate anyway, is it? Nobody thinks that it is. I don't think even they think it's accurate. It's obviously been fiddled with, as communists tend to do.
There we go. And we got the new Pope, newly elected Pope Leo. What is that, the 15th? I'm not good at my Roman numerals. 14th, right?
14th.
There you go, 14th. I'm trying. I was looking back in my schooling there. Roman numerals 10, less 5, 1 on the other side is, there you go, 14, right?
That's right. Yeah. He's from Chicago.
There you go. A newly enthroned Pope Leo held his first mass as leader of the Catholic faithful, saying the world's largest church must desperately counter a lack of religious belief instead of faith in God. People are focusing more on technology, money, success, power, pleasure. Pleasure would be one of those things. A lack of faith is tragically accompanied by the loss of meaning of life, the neglect of mercy, appalling violations of human dignity, and the crisis of family. I did see he also put a tweet out and said there was only 2 genders, which has caused some people to become very vocal against this new pope.
He also was the guy that came out and tried to. He was one of the Catholic theologians that came out and disputed J.D. Vance's claim about, the priority, the order of priorities in your life and how it should be like your family and then, which is a Jewish concept, but also in Christianity. But anyway, he came out and attacked J.D. Vance for that, because J.D. Vance made that point regarding illegal immigration, saying and international aid, saying we shouldn't, it's not our priority to help people thousands of miles away. But obviously, Catholic Church is all about that, the universal church. That's the name of that institution. So obviously, they have a universalist perspective. But yeah, it's interesting that point that he's made, though. I mean, how many times have you heard that from a pope or from any sort of senior Christian figure? Like, people are on their iPhones and everything, watching movies rather than believing in God. Like, yeah, that's been the case for about 100 years now. Not the iPhones, obviously. But what are you going to do about it? It's one thing to say that, but what's your plan? How are you going to bring people back into the church?
I think
that's what we have to see.
One of the big issues is I think we have a godless media as well that actually has been against Christianity, and it has not helped people, especially young people, with any belief or faith in Christianity. So there you go, a godless media.
I think it's not just the media. I think it's like every aspect of Western society is pretty hostile to Christianity. On a sort of metaphysical level, they reject everything that Christianity puts on the table, pretty much, don't they?
Yeah. So I guess you have to decide, as King Arthur would, what comes first: God, family, and nation, or what the order is. J.D. Vance would probably have a different way. RFK would have a different way, or JFK. Who to serve first?
Yeah, RFK, he's a Catholic as well, isn't he? Actually, there are a lot of Catholics in the US administration. So, and obviously Mark Carney's a Catholic as well.
China's Xi Jinping joins Vladimir Putin on Victory Day parade in Russia. I wonder if Xi is going to claim that the Chinese won the Second World War, as does Putin.
The Chinese do, well, I should say the Chinese communists. They do have their own mythology about the Second World War, but it's obviously related to Japan. The Chinese didn't do anything against the Nazis, just like the Russians didn't do anything against the Japanese, really. But it is interesting that they're together because they weren't, because this is about the Nazis. This isn't about the Japanese. It's about defeating the Nazis. The Chinese played no role in that whatsoever. And the Soviet Union, the sort of predecessor state of Russia, they have a bit of a mixed reputation in China because they went into Manchuria, northeastern China, sort of took some land at the end of the Second World War. Like they were very, very cheeky, and then they gave it to the Communist Party. But yeah, it's a funny one. I mean, obviously, if Vladimir Putin's not really serious at all when he talks about this sort of thing. It's all just for show. It's all just nonsense. But if he was actually serious, he would have the British over and the obviously and the Americans, wouldn't he, and the Canadians, because that was the team. That was the dream team that beat the Nazis, obviously, not the Chinese. That's just that's more to do with the 21st century than the 1940s.
I was at this conference, and an 80-year-old lady, she looked amazing for 80. She came up to me and she showed me, said, look at this. And I said, I don't have my glasses. I really can't see what you're trying to show me. And she's like, look at this. It's true. Donald Trump is going to have a military parade on his birthday. And, I squinted in there and I said, well, I think that headline might be misleading. It happens to be Flag Day, which happens to be his birthday. So, and then she's like, well, that's right. But, and then she walked away defeated, right? Because she wanted to speak into the echo chamber, right? So like the first thing we need to do is just start being honest. And that will help a lot in so many different ways. Just start by being honest instead of trying to turn everything into a narrative.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? But I feel like it's not even, that's not the level they're on. They're not trying to objectively discuss reality. I feel like it's more about, are you on my team? And that was a way to ask, and you said no. So
she was testing me, and then I was just like, that's not very honest. And then she's kind of slinked away, just like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That's where we're living though now, isn't it? Like this is what people mean when they say that we're in a kind of like pre-Civil War atmosphere almost, where people do things like that. They like test each other, and then if you're not on their team, it's like, see you later, sort of thing.
Here's one here. This was one of our viewers there just talked about immigration. New Zealand grapples with uncertain future as record numbers leave and a surge of departures, mostly fleeing a weak economy. Fuel concerns for a longer-term impact of the country as some small towns scramble for survival. Sound familiar? Does that?
That's what I was thinking.
Well,
this is in that
same policies, same rhetoric, same garbage, same result.
In one of those, I can't remember which one it was, the RCMP one or the recent one from the Privy Council office, but or Office of the Privy Council. One of those reports on like a very negative future for Canada. Actually, it was a recent one, wasn't it, from the Privy Council? It included a section saying like Canada losing its people because people lose faith in Canada. The economy is so bad that people just leave en masse. They just go to another country. And that's obviously a big fear for the Canadian establishment. And you can see exactly why that would be the case. That's been the case, I should say, going back to the beginning of Canada, even before Canada was created as a country. One of the priorities for the Canadian establishment was how do we hold on to our people? Because so many people would just go to the US because there were more opportunities there. And we're talking the 18th century here. We're talking hundreds of years ago. So that's still a real fear for the Canadian establishment. And he is like a cautionary tale, I guess. New Zealand. That's what happens if you have a consistently poor economy and opportunity relatively close by. In the case of the New Zealanders, it's Australia. People are just going to leave,
Yeah. So a couple of things. The U.S. just made it easier for snowbirds to stay longer, a couple of months longer. So there you go. The Americans making it easier for snowbirds to go down there and spend more money. I think it's now 240 days a year you can snowbird down there. Gavin Newsom really trying to attract some Canadians into the economy of California. And and there's that report we covered several times that was done by the federal government saying that many Canadians, I should say, many Canadians with the wherewithal will leave Canada, and many of the ones that are left behind may be foraging in the forest, killing wildlife for survival.
But yeah, can you imagine just for a minute if the Americans just unilaterally said, without any expectation of reciprocity, they just said Canadian citizens can move to the US right now, and there's no trouble. You can get employment, you can you can stay as long as you want, you can get a driving license, an apartment, and so on. Can you imagine the exodus and that's just now. I mean, not this bleak future, but right now, I think Canada would lose.
I've heard
I'd
noise of
say like
that
a few
already.
million or something like that in the space of a couple of years.
I've heard noise of that already. I've heard noise of that, people talking about it and saying, why not open the border to Canadians that want to leave? And one of the persons said, if you can prove you voted Conservative, welcome them into the United States. So I don't know how you go about doing that, but there
You
is
gotta have your F Trudeau flag, then they'll let you in.
there is noise being made. And again, this snowbird thing is a step there. 240 days of the year you can snowbird into the United States. That's like there's 365 days in a year, because it used to be 6 months.
Well,
more.
yeah.
It's like 8
And that's
months.
unique as well. That's unique to the Canadian passport. So when I got that, because I always wanted to do the Pacific Crest Trail, which is that where you walk basically from Mexico to Canada, and it takes about 6 months. And when I was only a pathetic, impoverished British citizen, it would have been very hard to do that. You have to go to the embassy and beg for an extra visa. But obviously now that I'm a Canadian by law, I was like, oh yeah, I can do that because it's only Canada. It's like a unique sort of dispensation for the Canadian people. So it wouldn't be that hard to imagine it being extended, really, or improved somehow.
I looked for myself just for research for a story. I looked, and for a CPA to move to the United States, all I have to do is secure a job. I get a letter from an employer down there saying that I have a job, and then I have to fill out a little bit of paperwork at the border that said, which literally takes minutes, and I can move to the United States on a full-time basis.
Wow. So that's they're making sure that they get the professionals, the highly educated people.
There you go. Just like that. Hey, a couple of forms, make sure you got a job, and then you go look, and the need for accounts. I mean, I almost moved to the United States. Oh, it must have been 25 years ago. I had a job offer in Houston, Texas. Went down there, spent a week down there, and it would have been a really cool job. Actually, it would have been consolidating financial statements in 6 different countries. So I'd have spent probably 8 months on the road in 8 different countries. And one of those countries was Russia, and then there was lots in South America. And it was for anti-lock brake maker for aircraft, and where they did all their parts manufacturing all around the world. And I had 3 young children at the time, and we decided at that time that it wasn't really good for the family for me to do that. It would have been a great experience for me, living abroad all over the place, the world traveler. But I made the sacrifice for the family, and I stayed at home, and we did not move to Houston, Texas. And the money was crazy. The money was crazy too. And then I had another job offer down there once, and it was $250,000 US plus a car to move to Houston.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I turned that one down too, right, for family. So there you go.
Damn family.
And where's that got me? No. I jest. Family first. There you go. Family first.
And on the upside, your kids don't have Texan accents now. So that's positive, isn't it?
And then the reason why Texas was interesting, because my wife actually went to school. She went to school in El Paso, Texas. So she was an American citizen at one point. So she was an El Paso girl. So she went to school down there. So there you go.
Wow.
In the markets. Look at that. Market's kind of chopping along. And Donald Trump said the other day, go buy some stock. He said, now's the time. They did that deal with Keir Starmer, and he said, first of many. And if they do a deal with China, the stock market will shoot like you will not believe. So there you go. Your
Well,
call.
I don't know. The deal with the British, it's not exactly a comprehensive one, is it? They're still being tariffed 10% on basically everything. The
We'll get to
British.
that.
There's a few little carve-outs.
We'll chat about that in a couple seconds. Gold. Look at that. Our friend Gold. Our friend Gold. You guys didn't do the market reports while I was gone. What's the deal with that, hey? Our friend Gold doing quite well, actually. Hey?
It's just over our heads, isn't it? Josh and myself, we can't understand.
There you go.
The
Our
gold.
friend Gold, 33.39. Again, looks like it wants to take a run at the 3,500 as it's basing there. 46.53 in Canadian bucks. There you go. Like, and it's the Asian markets really holding up gold. It's what's, like, it's the Asian demand for physical gold, and that's been like that for a while. Russians, the Asians buying gold, and a lot of world central banks buying gold too, right? So there you go. People love the gold. We nailed this one again. You'll learn some stuff on this show. That's one of the cool things about this show. We try to actually help a little bit as we go. And in the Bitcoin, we said that Bitcoin was looking like it was banging on the door. It was going to go back to 100 grand. And look at that again. What are you looking at here? 103,000 bucks this morning. I think backed off to 102. There you go. And in Canadian dollars, you want to take a shot at that? You want to take a shot at that?
Is it 162 or something?
Oh, 143, 190 in Canadian bucks.
I need to get adjusted to the new arrangement because it's better now, isn't it? The exchange rate.
Well, it's actually gone worse today. So there you go. We're going to talk about that. Actually, Canadian dollar has fallen under the 71 cent mark now. There you go. Right now, trading at 71.78, falling a bit. A precipitous drop there, actually. Again, if they don't do an Alberta deal or keep Alberta happy, that is not going to look good for Canada. That is, Alberta, no different than Quebec right now, has demanded to be in the driver's seat, and they don't got a lot to hold against Alberta right now because they're holding the cards and the threat, and the federal government. I don't know how they do it with the same characters, Stephen Guilbeault. Like, I mean, there's never a way that he's ever going to bend. And
yeah, he's an ideologue.
Chrystia Freeland and Melanie Jolie, like, even if you go read some of her posts, I mean, that girl is just one. Like, she could be a meme in herself.
She is a bit of a meme, yeah. But I've just got a news alert there. Just came through on my phone saying that he's going to announce his cabinet on Tuesday, Mark Carney. So if it's the same old faces, particularly Guilbeault, the all-important Guilbeault, if he's still in there and he's still powerful, then I would say, yeah, the dollar's not going to like that, is it? It's not going to like the idea of more of the same.
If carbon tax is their center policy, and they talk about a future of a green superpower, that is not a reality right now. But anyway. Donald Trump, the agreement with the United Kingdom is full and comprehensive one that will cement the relationship between the U.S. and the UK for many years to come because of their long history and allegiance together. It's a great honor to have the UK as the first announcement. Many more deals coming. The UK and the U.S. definitely a friend and foe. I mean, it's a lot of former UK people, actually, when they did their revolution and broke away from the United Kingdom. But, they've joined each other in wars, albeit late sometimes for the Americans. But they
every time.
I'm trying to be gentle.
Yeah, you're being nice. You don't want to get deported.
I don't want to get deported. I'm here right now. I don't want to end up in one of those cells, right? Actually, everybody's been treating us very, very well down here. Even when you mention you're from Canada, they're just like, "Oh my God."
How about customs? Were they nice there as well?
Absolutely. When I went there, just, what are you down here for? Told them I was down here for, like, have a great time. did, man. He did
Well, there you
not.
are.
He did not. It was like a matter of a couple seconds, and he just had a great time. And like I said, at the conference, very, very nice. When I went to get like about a temporary pass at a fitness place, they actually gave it to me free. They're just like, "Oh no, I love seeing this." And then so she just like, "Yeah, you can come for a few days for free." I'm like, "Awesome, right?"
Wow. Friendly. You do sometimes get the very friendly Americans, don't you? They're the best ones. I
I've run
always
into
I always
all the
hope for them.
friendly ones. I've hit all the friendly ones.
Yeah. I would say anyway for
Um,
this tweet and this deal, he refers to it as a full and comprehensive one. I mean, is there anybody on this planet except him that would say that? It's not full, it's not comprehensive, is it? It's not even I mean, is it even a deal? It seems like it's just nothing as far as I'm concerned. It's like a
well,
few tiny little issues.
I listened to Ross Gerber, who's basically a nut job, like a virtue signaling nut job, on I think he was CNBC he was on CNN, and he was talking about how dare Trump allow James Bond Austin Martins be shipped to the United States of America. Just like, Ross, have a seat, buddy. Just have a seat. Shut up. Just shut up for a while. Like, the guy is just he's just a clown show, actually. But anyway, there you go. Ontario begins construction of its first SMR. There you go. A small modular reactor. There you go.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing news, I would say.
Aiming to lead the G7. You know what? Canada has some of the best technology in the world, except we deploy it everywhere else. We don't deploy it here in Canadian soil.
Yeah.
But Ontario, they're taking a lead there with an SMR. SMR could be the future. I was a big believer in uranium stocks, and I got a big punishment when Fukushima happened, though, because that was a bad day for nuclear. So,
well, the Germans panicked, didn't they? And that's when the Germans abandoned all their nuclear. Part of the reason they're in such trouble right now. Silly, silly Germans.
we got a little clip here from friend of the show, Kathy Woods, and she's talking Tesla.
Where are you on Tesla at this point? You've been a bull for a very, very long time. We're at $287.
Yes, well, as we have put out there, our target in 5 years, so 2030 again, is $2,600. And our confidence in that number has gone up now that Tesla is commercializing robotaxis in August, in June. What we don't have in that number and what is happening.
Maybe I just play a small clip of that for all the people that were ready to burn down Tesla and light it on fire. Tesla is one of the leading companies in the world.
She is not only is she a bull, but she's a raging bull, isn't she?
Yeah, they do. I follow her quite a bit. They do a lot of research. They do a lot of research, and they make it all freely available. So I'd advise people to go look at ARK Invest, the funds that she runs. So there's some really good people that work for her, Tasha Keeney, and a number of other people that do tons of in-depth research on it. Tesla is a leading company in leading sectors in the world. And I'm going to the Fremont factory today, and I'm going to bang on the door. I'm going to say if Elon will see me. I'm going to see if I can get a tour, actually, of the factory. But I don't know. We'll see. Hey, you don't ask,
see if
you don't
you can
get.
shake hands. Shake hands with a
Optimus.
That would be cool. Yeah.
There you go. So going there today. In our tech section, look at this this map here of irradiation. So where the solar power is growing is like really good in the world. And if you look at Alberta there, again, I think I said this many times too, Alberta is an energy superpower in more ways than one. Oil and gas, LNG, and also solar. The best place in Canada for solar is our friendly Albertans. And it's crazy. China has 888 gigawatts of installed solar. And it would generate about 44% of the United States electricity. I think we've shown in the past some of the solar farms that are going on in China there. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, the amount of solar in China and stuff like that. But again, there's still B players. The A players are LNG and oil. But this is a B player that has star status, but it's not yet.
Hmm.
So don't get
Look
too
at
carried.
just for a laugh. Have a look at the United Kingdom there, the island of Great Britain. It's just like the worst, the darkest of mint or whatever that color is, and yet the British, in their extraordinary stupidity, are all in on solar. It's all about solar, and they've got some gorgeous pasture land, really high quality pasture land, very nice arable land in England. And what are they doing to at least some of it? They're plastering it in solar panels. I mean, that only ideology, only like religion, ideology, whatever, can make you do something that's stupid. And you just take one look at this map, and you would say, all right, we're not going to do solar there. That would be a stupid idea, wouldn't it? And then the British are just like, give me those panels.
Look at Canada. Look at Canada, and look at Australia.
Yeah, BC.
I mean, many parts of Australia are going to be 100% solar. And the same with the United States. Like in Hawaii, there's an island that's 100% solar. And that's with, guess what? Guess which company is doing it? That'd be Tesla, the one that most of the people on the left want to burn down. Tesla with the mega packs. And then look at Africa. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, Africa's the amazing one, because Africa really struggles with big infrastructure projects. And obviously solars, you can do that on a kind of like rough and ready level, can't you? So that's positive for Africa, definitely.
Maybe that's the east-west pipeline east-west grid they're talking about, right away from Africa.
Give me your sunlight.
And then here's some tech stuff. That's the airship, and not the Hindenburg. This is, I'm going to play this clip of the airship in China here. So there you go.
It's chirpy music, wasn't it?
Hey, there's the big windbag. So there you go. So you can either ride in the bottom part, like a typical airship. You can ride in the bottom part there, or you can ride in the center, and it's kind of like a bouncy gym inside.
I mean, I've lost count of the amount of times now that I've heard people talk about the impending dominance of airships and, the old dirigibles, but it never seems to happen. I don't know what it is that prevents it from happening, but it never seems to actually happen.
I jest about the riding inside, although it would be pretty cool if you could be riding in the bouncy house.
But what would be very cool is if you could do that, like gigantic airships, and use them as almost like tankers in the sky, sort of thing. That was the theory anyway, that was possible, and you could power them with like solar or whatever. But maybe that's for the next century. I don't know.
We do thank people for hanging in there. We do have some really cool memes at the end here. So stick with us. We're almost there. And I was in an Adidas store here in California. And what was really interesting, when I put the 5 items on the counter, she had a total for me. She didn't even pick them apart or anything. So as soon as you put it on the counter, it registers the total amount you have, so they don't have to go through it. And she said Sacramento is opening the first Adidas store that has 0 employees in it. So it's when you leave the store with it just charges you.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works for the smash and grabbers. Hey?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they get a bill sent to wherever it is they're staying.
And here's your bill. Anyway, it was pretty cool. And I think they have the same thing in.
Welcome. This is
Zane Glur. I don't know what that is. I think it's the same thing in Aritzia. Now they check you out where you're standing there. You don't have to go to the checkout counter and stuff like that too. In automotive news, we got a clip for you here.
The Tesla semi-advocate, and returning from Reno to my home, passing on I-80, I ran into this U.S. Foods Tesla Semi branded.
That's good.
And
that's good. Probably cut it there.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, so Pepsi and Frito-Lay had a bunch of the Tesla semis out there, but they're starting to roll these things out. They expect to be in production here right away. And so there's a U.S. Foods truck that the Frito-Lay and Pepsi have said that the experience with them has been really good. So there you go. And in other news, for Tesla, Mazda, late to the game, but has finally adopted the North American charging standard. So the Tesla charging ports, NACS, for their charging ports on their battery electric vehicles, launched in Japan from 2027 onward. And here's the part that everybody's been waiting for: the memes. And we got lots of them because Ian and I haven't been together for a bit, and we're going to meme it up. Ready? The Canadian electorate needs to understand this meme. There you go. Wait, I have to wait for Rommel to put it up there. We're catching up, I think. There you go.
It's an interesting Marconi creation, isn't it? I don't think AI quite got him.
And then for Mother's Day, this is definitely true. I don't know how it works in your household, but here you go. Wife spends afternoon online trying to decide what husband will get her for Mother's Day.
Yeah.
There you go.
Fair enough.
And then this one, did you see the Joe Biden and Jill Biden on The View? Did you watch that interview?
No. Is that real? Did that actually happen?
Yeah, you have to go watch it. You absolutely have to go watch it. It's it's Jill was doing her best to do what she does best. How's that? How's that for a lead in there? Jill had to jump in several times. So there you go. And then this one is so
Mr. Biden.
This one is so true. In 2005, if a guy had an accident on a motorcycle, everybody would run to help. 2015, everybody would just video it. Nobody would call 911. Actually, they made a law in New York City that if you were just filming it and didn't call 911, you could be charged. And
seems about right.
25, you actually did it yourself. You filmed yourself. I've seen people. We've actually had people work for us that when they've had a crisis, like the car won't start or something like that, they actually started doing selfies, crying into the phone of how their car broke down and all that. I'm just like, and that helps. How? Like, who's that? What are you doing? Like, I don't get it.
That is
right?
such peculiar behavior, isn't it? I feel like anthropologists should study that.
Yeah, should they? They should do something with it for sure. But yeah, no, it was just absolutely crazy. And then Catholics frantically Google new Pope to see if he's Catholic. Why wouldn't you, right? Why wouldn't you?
It's funny. Yeah.
There you go. And for Adam Lewis, I do have solar panels on my roof. I do so there you go. But I still believe oil and gas is our future. Bernie Sanders, and here you go. You wanted this, Dirigible. Or what do you call it? Dirigible? Bernie Sanders unveils his new gold encrusted beat the oligarchy. There you go. AI.
It's in the style of like Jules Verne or something. It's
quite
funny.
AI hard at work there, doing a heck of a job, right? And then
That's
this one
because he came out, didn't he, and said that he's not going to go and get a normal plane. He has to have a private jet because that's the only way that it's possible to go and campaign or something like that. And
then Doge is actually catching on in a lot of places. And a lot of people I talk to down here are talking about how they like Doge. So there you go. It's the United States is where a dog meme is helping America save taxpayers' money. God knows we need a dog up there. When does
Although
the dog
it's really not doing as well as they thought it would, isn't it? They got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, but it was supposed to be a 2-year program to save $1 trillion, and they're, I think, close to 200 billion. So they're only 100 days in. I know that a lot of the negative say is like, oh yeah, well, they only saved 200 billion. Well, Canada could use 200 billion, could it not?
It's still good, but Elon Musk's argument was that he needed to be 2 trillion to save the United States from bankruptcy.
But that was
his mission.
That was over 2 years, and they're still doing it.
But he's leaving.
No, he's leaving, but
18.
he's
It was
leaving.
18 months, wasn't it? It wasn't 2
Yeah,
years.
but he's leaving the team behind. And then I'll give you the
Yeah.
quote that he gave. Buddhism didn't die when Buddha left. Christianity didn't die when Jesus left.
Is that what he said?
Well, he said the Buddhism one. I added the Jesus one.
Wow, that is rather narcissistic of him, isn't it?
I thought that
Comparing himself to Buddha.
No, he's not. It depends how you look at it. You could say that, the movement. How about I say that the movement doesn't die when the mover leaves?
Yeah, maybe, but I think in the Trump White House, if you don't have the heft that Elon Musk had, because obviously Musk had them over a barrel because he paid for Donald Trump's victory.
And then
So
some
he could
people
make that argument, couldn't he? Whereas his little nerds that he has there in the White House or whatever, they can't make that argument. So
big
it'd be
balls,
interesting to see how effective it is.
You're talking about big balls now?
Big balls, yeah.
They made the funniest tweet I've seen in Elon for a while is just like, I made him say it. Big balls. Anyway, the National Post, I put this as a meme because I think it deserves to be a meme. Big kick in the teeth, NDP won't receive campaign reimbursements in hundreds of ridings. They're the meme themselves.
It's just another conspiracy of the oligarchs, isn't it? Against Jagmeet Singh, damn them.
And then the last one is this meme that was rampant across Canada. And this guy is famous everywhere. 55 and over unemployment rate, 5.3. 55 to 25, 14.1. There you go. There's your meme for the day.
That is such a funny image, isn't it? His face there. He's so joyful as he does that.
Fear is where cowards go to die. Thank you for that. And that's my saying. Put my name down underneath that one. So that's it. We're wrapping up, and we're not back till Wednesday. So you have you can just watch this one over and over again because I thought it was a really good show. A really big show, really good show. How's that?
Yeah, and then just keep looking back over the memes. Enjoy them many, many times, again and again.
You might need the sense of humor as they drive the Canadian economy into the ditch.
Yeah, I mean, if Tiff Macklem is right in his very depressing prognosis, then we're going to need a lot more memes pumped into our veins, aren't we? Just to stay alive.
Yeah, I think it's time to start making some financial plans for the worst of times so that you can make it the best of times, right?
To paraphrase Charles Dickens.
There you go. Do you want to be the Charles Dickens novel where it's like, more, please? You don't want to be that guy. Right?
Although we kind of are, aren't we? Already. Right. We're already there.
Well, listen, Oliver. Don't get all twisted up. How's that for an ending? Don't get all twisted up, Oliver. There's help is on the way. Anyway,
yeah.
We do thank you for watching, and we'll see you Wednesday with a jam-packed show on the Really Big Show, and we appreciate you watching. All right, cheers. Have a great weekend.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.